My opponent wrote something in the Walpole Times last week that stated that I've been on a smear campaign against him. And I think his quote is, "Since I moved here from Hyde Park a few years ago." I found that to be incredibly insulting. I have absolutely run a positive campaign, in spite of the fact that signs were stolen on from my people who decided to host one on their lawn. I woke up last Saturday, or 2 Saturday mornings ago, and there were 60 signs that were set up on my front lawn. And I'm not making any accusations against my opponent or his campaign workers, but that was very unsettling for my wife and my kids to know that somebody was on our front lawn. So I have run a very clean campaign. I want to talk about the issues, and anything that's negative that I have talked about with respect to my opponent's record is public record, and it is fact-based.
Mr. Rogers?
Then, Jim, you need to read the public record, because in the Walpole Times, you accused me of using campaign funds for personal use. I've never used 1 penny of campaign money for any personal use. That's a matter of public record. Also a matter of public record is that I have an unblemished record with the State Ethics Commission. And I'm not blaming you for people taking my lawn signs. I'm not gonna point the finger at you. That just happens in every campaign. It could be wanton kids, it could be kids from out of town. I don't know, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it, but I know this. I have conducted an unblemished campaign against you. I cannot say, Jim, that you've done the same for me when you attack me in the Walpole Times for using campaign funds for personal use, which I have never done.
Thank you. At this point, we'll give you the opportunity to ask each other a question. Mr. Rogers, you may ask Mr. Stanton a question.
Jim, I've talked about some of the things. I've created a prison mitigation fund money, which I'm going to file a bill next year, which will be bringing in hopefully $1 million for Walpole, but has brought in almost consistently about $750,000 for Walpole. I secured a $4 million grant for the construction of the Walpole's library. I got a $1 million Public Works Economic Development grant to revitalize East Walpole Center, and no other legislator in Walpole's history has brought back more local aid than I have in Walpole's history. And just last night, I announced to the Walpole town meeting that I secured a $200,000 grant for Walpole to repair the roof, to replace the roof at the Bird Middle School. My question specifically is, can you explain to Walpole citizens what you've done for Walpole?
Well, the first thing I would say is that I'm the vice chairman of the Walpole Zoning Board of Appeals. My kids are in the public schools here. My wife and I are taxpayers here in the town of Walpole. My wife is active at the Parent Advisory Council at the Old Post Road School. We are fully invested and have a direct invested interest in making sure that Walpole receives as much local aid as it can for our students. My background is in government. I'm a former assistant district attorney. I'm a former prosecutor at the federal level, and I'm self-employed. So I believe that I'm going to bring great experience, 20 years of working to the State House this year.
You have 30 seconds.
Well, my question was very specific. It wasn't what you've done for the federal government or for the state government. It was for the citizens of the town of Walpole. So I stand on my record, and I hope that the citizens of Walpole value that. And if they do, that's why I'm asking for your vote to be your state representative.
Mr. Stanton, you have a question for Mr. Rogers?
Yes. And we briefly touched on the issue already, but it was well reported that in 2008 you paid a $30,000 review fee with as a result of an investigation from the Office of Campaign and Political Finance. There were 22 mortgage payments made on a Cape House by a friend and consultant, Thomas Drummy. What was never explained is what specific consulting services, and Mr. Drummy was paid $100,000 from your campaign account. What specific consulting services did he provide?
Jim, you say you're not running a smear campaign, and yet you ask these questions, which are a smear campaign. I was exonerated in that review. Speaker DeMacy ran a smear campaign against me in 2008, didn't want me to be speaker. I went to OCPF, I fully cooperated with them, I showed them the books. And Mr. Drummy certified to the State Review Office, OCPF, that he earned every penny over the course of time that he was paid by the committee. And then you tarnish his reputation because you say, well, he wasn't on the deed to his home. And you're not on the deed to your home, Jim. But I'm not pointing the finger at you and saying, that looks dishonest, that doesn't pass the smell test. Because none of these issues help the people of Walpole with their families and their communities. And that's what I've sought to do. But you continue to bring this up. And I reimbursed the taxpayers. I was the first person in the history of the state, since I asked for the review, I was the first person in the history of the state to reimburse for the full cost of the review. You call it a fine or a violation, that's a smear.
They also changed the law as a result of your paying that $30,000 ethics fine by a unanimous vote in the legislature. Exonerated is not a word that is found anywhere in these documents. I've read them. Nobody pays $30,000 if they've been vindicated or exonerated. If you're vindicated and exonerated, then you fight for your reputation and you pay zero. Now these questions that I ask, and you do not answer them, the continuous position that you've taken is that OCPF did its investigation and nobody should be allowed to ask these questions. The most important people here are the constituents. I'm your constituent and you refuse to answer the questions.
I'll answer them right now. You wanna go? Want me to answer them? It's in the public record, Jim. You said you've read the public record. You
I've got
offered
the public record right here.
Substantial services.
I've got it right here.
Right.
Here's the OCPF report, and
Well,
if
do you
you
want me to
can
answer
find
the
the
question,
word
or do you wanna just
exonerated or
continue to-
vindicated in here, it's not here. And listen, it's not part of a smear campaign. It's very easy to make yourself the victim. Now,
At this point, not that we don't want to keep going on about this, but maybe you can bring it into some other part. Question 2 on the ballot.